Hey Pisces fam, so I'm back with another reading, and this is going to be your needs versus wants love reading, and it was inspired by another YouTuber by the name of Breenie Lee. She has a lot of good sort of pep talks on her channel, and she just kind of gives insight and advice based on her experience and her growth as a woman. So really good stuff. And so in one of her videos she talks about how when we go out looking for a partner, or when we're thinking about our ideal partner, when we're dating or whatever, we focus a lot on what it is that we want in a partnership or in a partner, instead of what it is that we need. So we need kind of a healthy balance of both to establish healthy relationships. So one of the main reasons I started this channel was to really create a space where I can empower people, inspire people to think deeper, to heal, to grow, and also to really advocate for mental health and our well-being, really to prioritize our well-being, to advocate for self-love and self-knowledge. Okay, so I'm hoping that this reading will inspire a lot of us to start thinking about, kind of learn about ourselves and think about what it is that we need to establish healthy, loving relationships. Okay, so here we go. I see a lot of course there's like a bunch of love readings on YouTube, but a lot of them are really geared towards like what's gonna happen, with your toxic relationship. And it's interesting that when I was in a very toxic relationship, a lot of those videos really resonated with me. A lot of those readings were really on point. And then kind of since I've gotten out of that situation, and I've spent a lot of time just focusing on myself and my growth and my well-being, my mental health, and my self-love journey and healing, I don't really connect with those readings as much anymore. So I kind of want to focus our attention on something that's really going to help us establish strong spiritual relationships and loving, healthy relationships. So I'm hoping that this will inspire us to do so. So here we go. So we have the Two of Cups in reverse. We have the Queen of Cups in reverse. We have the Four of Pentacles in reverse. And we have the Five of Swords. Wow. Very, very kind of intense energy, okay? So for most of these readings, I feel that, I feel very strongly that the reversals are kind of speaking to a past sort of pattern, that you've been stuck in, okay? So it's either that's happened in your past and it's still affecting you, or you could be dealing with it now, right? So the Two of Cups in reverse, I'm feeling that there was a very significant relationship that has now ended, and it still impacts you now, right? I'm thinking a lot about how we tend to go back to that one relationship every time we start dating, or we start seeing someone else, or even after a relationship, after the relationship ends, and even having multiple relationships after that, we still think back to that relationship, right? So I'm thinking that there's this one significant relationship that you've really are holding on to, right? holding on to, in this, not in the sense that you might want to get back with that person, but just because that relationship has impacted you so much, you still kind of compare relationships to that one relationship. And if that's the case, I mean, that's always going to stay with you, right? Your history, your past is always going to stay with you on some level. But there's a difference between it being your past and, you know, you kind of going back to it every now and then because something reminds you or something like that. Or there's a difference between that and then kind of going back to that all the time as like kind of an automatic reaction to, well, I liked it in that relationship because of this, and this. And you kind of, not obsessing, but like really focusing too much of your time and energy on what happened in that relationship, how that partner was with you, how you were in that relationship. It's almost like take what you need in terms of lessons that you've learned from that relationship and avoid always coming back to it. Okay, I understand that a lot of relationships, that for a lot of us, relationships have a very deep impact, right? And that's totally understandable. But don't let that get in your way of establishing new relationships. And not just establishing new relationships, but establishing new profound spiritual partnerships, okay? Don't continue to carry that with you as a sort of baggage that you keep comparing everything to. We have the Queen of Cups in reverse. So very much in the depths, right? This is what this energy is about. You're very kind of really in the depths of your emotions. Most likely, like I said, regarding this relationship. So if lately you've really felt like you're still connected to that relationship, or you've been thinking about it a lot, or you've been really reminiscing on how you felt in that relationship, on that partner, maybe thinking like, why did it end, right? Maybe thinking about going back. That sort of train of thought, those thoughts, those emotions, that attachment has got you emotionally overwhelmed, right? Whether you have recognized that or not, you are giving too much of your emotional energy to that memory, to that past experience. And like I said, after so long, you kind of just have to think about it and understand what happened, take your lessons, take what you learned and move forward, right? And I know that that's easier said than done. However, I think that the reason why you can't really go back to it is because it's really taking too much from you, right? It's overwhelming you emotionally. It has taken a lot from you. The Four of Pentacles in this deck really talks about someone who's very selfish and inconsiderate of other people, and just kind of takes for their own gain, and doesn't really care about what the other people are left with, the situation that other people are left in. So I feel more than anything, it's not more the person, it's more the relationship. It's more the feelings that you still have, that attachment to that relationship, that's really robbing you of an opportunity to move forward. And we have the Five of Swords here. I think that there's still that resentment, right? There's still some things that have not been closed out that you might need to address before you can move forward. But regardless of what it is, you really need to kind of close that chapter. You really need to understand that, you know, think about, like, it's a new year. Think about how this is holding you back from not even just starting other relationships or meeting other people, but how is this holding you back from just growing as a person, moving forward on your path, and all of that mental energy that you're giving the past, all of that emotional energy that you're giving the past, all of that energy can be put towards you healing. It could be put towards your self-love journey. So there's a difference between thinking about things, going back to things so that you can heal from them, and going back to those things just to kind of obsess over them, or put yourself down over them. So when you're healing from past experiences, it's never really helpful to bury those feelings and bury those thoughts, right? You have to address them, because your brain literally is going to keep it there, store it there until there's some sort of closure. Your brain wants closure. Your body remembers, holds on to those memories of the past until you have kind of brought them up, allowed yourself to observe them, and really honor the feelings that come up with it, right? So give yourself the space to do that, and then continue to be mindful of where your mind goes or where your feelings go. Is it always back to this relationship? That's really what can be mentally exhausting and emotionally overwhelming. And carrying this resentment with you is really not helpful. Like I said, to establish relationships. And when I say establish healthy relationships, it's not always with somebody else, right? The most important relationship is a relationship you have with yourself. So I'm going to pull an oracle card from the Vision of the Muse deck. We have lighten. Wow. Very interesting how we have lighten come up. And like I said at the beginning of the reading, there's a lot of kind of heavy energy, very intense energy, especially with the Queen of Wands. This relationship definitely still drags you to the depths of your emotions. And like I said, whether we recognize it or not, a lot of times things that happen within us, we aren't mindful enough to gauge exactly how heavily it's affecting us, right? One example of that is, for me, for a very long time, I didn't know how to gauge how stressed out I was. So an indicator for me, kind of like how I realized when I was really extremely stressed out, was when I would get sick physically. I would get a flu, I would get the cold. I would be like, oh wow, I guess I have been really stressed out. My body has been kind of going through a lot, because for so long I had been on basically like on automatic. I had been on just going, because obviously hopefully I get the chance one day to share my story on here, but I've been kind of living on survival mode, right? I've always had to kind of provide for myself and survive. So when you are in that mode, you're not really connected with what your body's experiencing, right? So something major that changed my life really is when I learned to connect with my body. And that seems kind of like you shouldn't even have to mention that, right? Because I know what's going on with my body. If I feel discomfort, I know that I feel discomfort. But it's really even deeper than that. So when you're feeling stressed out, a lot of times, like I said, we don't even realize how stressed we are. We don't even realize how much mental, emotional energy we put towards something. We don't even realize until something happens, something really, drastic happens, that we're like, oh wow, I guess I have been holding on to this, or I have been feeling like this, but it's been kind of an underlying thing and kind of such an automatic reaction that you don't even realize that it's happening, or you don't really connect with yourself enough to assess whether you know, that mental energy, that emotional energy should be given to whatever it is that you're spending it on. So lighten up in the sense that you're carrying a lot, you're feeling a lot, you're thinking a lot. You know, this resentment is pretty heavy. Whatever it is that you've dealt with, you know, if it was a betrayal, if it was somebody kind of really left you down and out, right? And you still feel that till this day, release that. You have to really lighten that burden on yourself before you can freely move forward, right? And honestly, it's just really not fair to your next partner if you're bringing all this baggage in, right? And before you say, oh no, I've cleared all that out, I've done, have you? Right? If you have, if you really feel like you have, then it doesn't hurt to kind of go back and really kind of assess whether that's true or not, right? Whether you actually are ready or not. So that's your reading, Pisces. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back with January mid-month readings, so I'll see you then.